Should we start?
Yes.
All right. So, shalom everyone. As always, Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll start with a little thing about Shabbat. Interesting thing I found. The Zohar HaKadosh says in Parashat Beshalach, he says, Man deyativ behilula de malka, one who attends the feast of the king. Right? It's talking about the Seudah of Shabbat. La yitchazel lemishpag lemalka. He shouldn't see that he should let go of the king. Ve'yitasek be'achora. And he should be busy with something else. So they learn from there, they say, and then it goes on, it says, Ve'im tekayem, if a person does, that the whole Shabbat, to be careful, especially during the feast. He's talking about during the Seudah, that a person is careful to only talk about things of Kedusha, of Shabbat. Then that's when you're going to have the end of the Pasuk that says, Az titanai al Hashem, then you could enjoy upon Hashem. And it says, Shomer Shabbat mechalelo, right? He's guarding Shabbat from desecrating it, right? And also it says, Al tikre mechalelo, don't read mechalelo, ela machullo. All his sins are going to be forgotten. So they say in the Sefer of Shulchan HaTahor, it says that a person has to be extra careful, especially at the meal, from talking divrei chol, because it says once you start, then other things will begin. Nobody's going to have proper singing. Nobody's going to have proper brikat hamazon. That's how it is. One thing leads to another. And he says the main thing of the Kedusha of Shabbat is the speech. So, and he says, once you do that, your children will learn also from you, and it's going to bring a lot of positive energy into the home. It says, but the problem is that on Shabbat and Yom Tov, that's when the Satan comes and tries to sabotage all these things, all the Kedusha, all the things that a person could bring. Like, with little things, like, it starts with one thing, then leads to another, then another. However, if a person grabs hold of it and puts a stop to it and says a nice story, brings a nice atmosphere onto the Shabbat table, that's when a person could bring the Kedusha onto his home. And then he talks about how people, they finish off, they think they're Shomer Shabbat, but what do? True, they try to keep Shabbat, but instead, what do? They finish 2 or 3 kilograms of seeds on Shabbat while they're reading the newspaper, and they consider themselves like a person who is Shomer Shabbat. Hashem Yatzilenu. All right. So just to recap on what we said last week we were discussing the melacha of gozez, right? The melacha of gozez, shearing, and part of shearing was also people that are not careful and they bite off their nails, right? They bite off their nails or the flesh around the tip of their fingernails. That's a big problem. They should be careful not to do that, because that is close to being Mechal Shabbat. That was, I think, the last thing that we learned. So Be'ezrat Hashem will start the melacha of melaben. Melaben. What is melaben? When in the Beit HaMikdash, they would need wool to make the clothing for the Kohanim, and to make different curtains that they had in the Beit HaMikdash for different usage. They would take the wool, and what they would do is they would shear it, and then the wool, usually while it's on the sheep, it gets very dirty, obviously. So they would be melaben. Melaben comes from lavan. They would whiten it. They would put it in boiling hot water, and the heat of the water and whatever, they might have had other chemicals as well, they would remove all the dirt. Not only it would remove all the dirt, it would whiten it. It would make it white. That's melaben. So the melacha is to whiten, right, clothing. whiten things, to cleanse things, to do laundry, basically. So the of the melacha would be if a person takes wool and washes it, launders it in water, he's going to be over on the melacha of melabin. And if a person washes clothing in water, it's going to be over on a tolda of melabin. What's the difference between that, between laundering and melabin? As we said, melabin is to whiten something. When you do laundry, all you do is you remove the dirt, right? You remove the dirt. You don't make it white necessarily. The av is melabin. The tolda is mechabes, kibus, washing, laundering. What's the difference? It's no difference.
So bleaching
Would be the av, right? I'm saying, like we said before, there's no difference between the av and the tolda. For both of them, will kill you. There's no difference. But it's just academic, that this is an av, this is a tolda. It makes a difference for a korban also. If a person did it b'shogeg, then if he does an av and a tolda together, it gets complicated. Now, even without water, if a person rubs the clothing, right, takes the two ends of the clothing and rubs them together without water, makes it nice and clean, that's also asur. A person can't do that. You can't clean a cloth or a clothing, by doing that. However, a person could take another dry, let's say, handkerchief or towel, and rub it on the clothing to make it clean. That's fine. Or with his hand, without rubbing them together, if a person wants to cleanse it, just to wipe it off, that's fine. There's no isur in that. Now, the Rambam writes in Halachot Shabbat, Hasochet et habeged, one who squeezes a cloth, at sheyotzi hamayim shebo, until he squeezes the water which is in the cloth out, hareze mechabes v'chayav. This person is mechabes, he's doing laundry, and he would be chayav, right? It's asur from the Torah. Why? He says shehasechita, squeezing, mitzorchei kibusi. This is part of laundering. Kemo shehagasa mitzorchei habishul. Just like stirring the food in the pot, that is part of cooking. That is one of the things that are needed for cooking. So too, squeezing, right, is an integral part of laundering, and therefore it is asur. He says, the Rambam, ve'en sechita bese'ar. There is no sechita in the hair. Ve'hu hadin le'or. And the same thing with skin or leather. She'en hayavim al sechitato. If you squeeze hair, or if you squeeze leather or skin, there is no chiyuv of sechita. It's not a chiyuv. A person is not obligated for that, for the isur of sechita. So, obviously, of course, a person does laundry. Look, you throw your stuff, your clothing in a washing machine. At the end, there is a spin cycle. What happens in the spin cycle is squeezes the water out. That's part of the cleansing, because if the water, imagine you wash everything, you leave it in the water and let it sit there. It doesn't do anything. All the dirt stays there. When you squeeze it out, when you squeeze out the water, with that water that gets squeezed out comes also the dirt. The dirt also comes out. That's the Rambam. Now, there is a rule of thumb in laundering in Halachot Shabbat, sheriato zehu kibuso. Right? Sheriato zehu kibuso means that when you soak something, this is kibus. Right? When you soak something, that means you put water on it, that itself is considered that you are laundering, that you have washed it. Therefore, a person is not allowed to put even a little bit of water, right, on a cloth to cleanse it, even without rubbing it. A person sees, his kid comes in, oh, what did you do? Your shirt is all dirty. Come here. You put a drop of water, so that without even rubbing it, you put a drop of water, that's asur. Sheriyato, soaking, is kibus, is already laundering, it's already washing, and that is asur. Right? Any questions so far? We are in the melacha of melaben. Melaben, laundering or whitening cloth.
So are you going to hit the aspect of like taking off dirt from clothes without using water?
We already hit it.
Okay.
Yes, so we're going to get back to it also. Don't worry, we're going to have another halachot regarding it. Now, let's say a clothing fell into the water, right? You're walking somewhere and there's a puddle, right? Or you're at home relaxing next to the pool on Shabbat and wind came and the thing fell into the pool, right? And he doesn't want, he doesn't want this clothing to be wet, right? So what can you do? What can a person do in order to avoid this situation, right? So first of all, this thing becomes muktzeh. This cloth becomes muktzeh. Right, don't sit next to the pool next time. Right, that's for sure. And now, all right, not a pool. We're talking about a puddle or whatnot. So what can you do? The problem is that this cloth, or this article of clothing has become muktzeh. You're not allowed to move it, right? Any clothing that became wet, soaking wet, it becomes muktzeh. You can't move it. Why? Because if you touch it, if you lift it, it's heavy, and you're gonna have to hold it. How are you gonna hold it? You're gonna squeeze it, and squeezing is asur. We have an issue. However,
what if you don't pick it up with your hand?
oh, very good. There is one way to do it. You take a stick. Using a stick, pick it up. No problem at all. Like we said before with the thing. Very good, excellent. That's fine. But let's say you don't have a stick. And if you might have a stick, this stick might be muktzeh. You might not have set it aside from before. So it's a good thing before Shabbat. You say, I'm setting aside this stick so I could beat my kids. Then it's not muktzeh anymore. But let's say, all right, fine, with a broom, handle of a broom, that's certainly not a muktzeh. And the person could use it. What if you don't want to do that? You don't want to touch it's important mink coat with any stick over there. So what you could do is, like it says in the Mishnah Masechet Shabbat, 2 people or more people could pick it up gently, then they could move it. Why? Because they're gonna remind each other, be careful not to squeeze. Also, I remember seeing one of the Mefarshim that said also because it becomes lighter, right, automatically, because a couple of people are holding it. Over there, the Mishnah is talking about aluntit. The Mishnah is talking about aluntit. Aluntit is a towel that fell, in the bathhouse. So it says that, one person should certainly not pick it up, but a couple of people could pick it up together because they're going to remind each other. And also, by the way, it will be lighter to carry, but that is not going to just cut it. But the idea is that they're going to remind each other. Now, this is only water. What if it fell into another type of liquid? Then you are allowed to move it. It's not going to be muktzeh, right? We're not scared that, you're going to squeeze it and you're going to squeeze the thing out, the liquid out, because with wine or Coke or apple juice and orange juice, you're not going to squeeze it. Even if you do squeeze it, it's not going to clean. It's not going to get clean. It's going to have that stain on it anyways. So let's say, example, a person is Shabbat table, they forgot to put the plastic on the tablecloth, and the wine or I don't know, the Coke or whatever it is, spilled and it's gotten all wet. So you want to get it dry. A person could put napkins on it, right, and then lift them up gently, not to squeeze the napkin, and it's not a problem of saying, you might go ahead and squeeze it and all that. It's not an issue, right? Yes.
All right. Okay. So this article of clothing that you take out of the pool.
Right.
Okay. You can't hang it up to dry it.
We'll get to that momentarily. Okay. Yes. We're going to talk about that in a couple of hours. Let's just hold on, please. Someone is walking in the rain. Oh, you know what? Let's get to that. Let's jump to that. We'll come back to this. Now, we'll skip some of the halachot. We'll get to that right away. So this article of clothing that got wet, that got soaked, it is asur to hang it up. What's the reason? Because if you hang it up, it's gonna look like you just did laundry on Shabbat, and you're drying your clothes on the clothesline, and it's marit ayin, right? Marit ayin is that people are gonna think faulty about you. A marit ayin does not make any difference. It doesn't make an iota of difference whether it's outside in your backyard, it's in your front yard, it's in your living room, it's somewhere hidden in your basement. Does not make any difference. Once it's asur mishum marit ayin, you cannot do it, right? Even betzina, even in a modest place, you cannot do it, right? So now, what can a person do if this thing got wet, and if and he wants to dry it, right? So what can one do? I don't know why I wrote it like this, but okay. So what happens in this case? You could certainly not put it on a clothesline or anything, but you could put it, let's say, on the back of the chair. Back of the chair, that's not the derech. Nobody could see that, like, could say that, he did laundry and he's putting it in the back of the chair. That's fine. In a place that is not normal, a person could just put it there and let it dry there. What if a person did laundry before Shabbat, and now it's Shabbat, and the clothing are still on the line? Should a person remove it because of this gezerah that people are going to think, wait, this guy did laundry just now? Or not? The halacha is no. You don't have to remove it because people will see. People will see already. Whoever is fuzul enough to see, that you have clothing on the line, they'll know you already had it there before Shabbat. And therefore, on this, Chachamim did not make a gezerah. The main point is that the Chachamim, in this case, didn't make a gezerah. Now the question becomes, on Shabbat, let's say you need one of those articles of clothing that is hanging there from before Shabbat. Can a person remove it from there or not? This is machlok, right? Because at the moment Shabbat began, this cloth, this shirt or whatever it was wet, and you can't wear it. Then, so it becomes mukseh. Something that's mukseh when Shabbat begins, it remains mukseh for the duration of Shabbat. That's number one. Number two, what about these pegs? What are they called? The pegs that hold the clothing? Clothespins. Thank you. That they hold the clothing on the line. This thing is also mukseh. What do you need it for on Shabbat? So Rabbi Zion Abba Shaul Zichron Livracha says you could move the clothing from the line, but just be careful. Don't touch the pins, right? Just drag it out. Drag it out. You could take it. That's Kalach Hayat. That's Kalach Hayat. It's indirect. It's not a problem. That's what Rabbi Zion Zichron Livracha used to say. And but Rabbi says it's not a problem. So you could just take it, open it, and put it aside because there is usage for it. It's a kli, and it's not an issue. You could go ahead and remove it on Shabbat, but only and only if you're gonna wear it on Shabbat. If a person says, you know what, it's great, I have nothing to do, I might as well take all the clothes off the line and put them away. No, right? It's only for usage of Shabbat, otherwise it does remain muktzeh.
So that soaking wet thing, does it only apply to hanging it on the clothesline, or can you throw it over a chair?
The soaking clothes, that's only on a chair. You can't put it on a clothesline because there you have a marit ayin. People are going to think that you just did laundry.
So it's only specific for the clothesline.
Clothesline or wherever it's normal to put your laundry, right? Let's say some people like to put it on on the fence. They usually do. So then that would also be asur. People will say, he just did laundry. Now, clothing that got wet, but you could tell they're very dirty. Let's say one of the kids fell in the puddle and it's muddy, the pants and everything. You just want it to be dry. There is no suspicion that you might have did laundry. You might have done laundry. Those stuff you could literally put them on the clothesline for to be dry, because whoever, it's nikar, it's something that could be discernible that it is dirty. Nobody's going to think that you did laundry on that dirty pants over there. You just want it to be dry. That's all. Now, talking about drying, obviously, wet clothing, you cannot put them in a dryer and turn the dryer on Shabbat. but something close to it. Can you put it on a chair, and move the chair near a radiator, near a heat source, near your stove, or somewhere that it's going to get dried up? Can one do that?
Yes.
It is asur, because you are cooking the water. It's going to reach Yad Soledetbo, and it'll certainly be asur because
But it's already
it's
there.
reaching Yad
Why should
Soledetbo.
not?
If it's there before Shabbat, then leave it there.
And what if you could wear it on Shabbat?
Yeah. If you want to wear it on Shabbat, you could wear it on Shabbat. So now, there's another thing also. When you put it near the radiator, as we said, one of the ways of cleansing clothing is through heat. So when it heats up, right, that heat evaporates the liquid that's in there, and with that, the dirt goes bye-bye, and now you have clean clothing. That's another method of doing laundry, and that is why, another reason why it would also be asur. Now, you could certainly leave it farther from the heat, where it would not reach Yad Soledetbo, and slowly over time it'll dry. That's not a problem, because again, it's on a chair, it's on something that's not the derech, the norm to dry clothing in, and therefore it's not a problem.
I have a question.
Yes.
Let's say you live somewhere where it's very cold, and you want to put, let's say, your clothes to warm up like overnight. So in the morning you put them on or something like that. Can you do that? Put it near the radiator to make them warm or something?
What would be the problem?
I don't know.
There's in fact, yeah, that's not a problem. You could do it.
Okay.
Do that. Make sure it's not wet.
Right. It's just dry. You just want to make sure, let's say it's like socks or something. You want to
Right.
have them warm in the morning.
Right. Now, this thing that we said that you could put on a chair, you shouldn't take a couple of chairs, right, next to one another and say, because that certainly looks like, oh, here I am, like, I'm drying my clothes, that's, you might as well announce it. I just did laundry and I'm drying them up. That's certainly discernible. It's nikar. You could tell that this person has an intention of drying the clothes, and therefore it is a problem. Just put it on a chair, but again, as we said, don't put it near a source of heat. Let's say it's raining and the person has a raincoat, right? And the raincoat is drenched, right? Can a person, when he comes home, goes, what am I gonna do? Like, and he wants to hang it up on a hanger, or he wants to put it in the shower. They have these clothes line. He wants to hang it there. Can a person do that? This is a trick question. So yeah, Rabbitzin is saying yes. Yes, you could do it, because everyone could tell you didn't do laundry on this raincoat. This got wet from the rain. Like, all the people that are watching you with their binoculars, they could tell, it's raining, of course, this coat is wet only from the rain, and it's certainly it's wet from the rain, and it's not wet from laundry, and it's not a problem. Again, one must be careful not to put it near a source of heat that could reach Yad Soledetbo, because then again we are met with the same problem. Now, if a person is going again in the rain, and his coat got soaking wet, can he continue to wear the coat? Right? It might be sechita, it might be a problem, like, he's going to squeeze the water out. For that, Chachamim were not choshesh. They didn't make a gezerah that, don't wear your clothing while they're getting wet, because you might squeeze them. It's not the derech for a person to squeeze his clothing as he's wearing it. Therefore, on that, it's not a problem. It's not an issue. Okay. Now, the Gemara says that if a person is mena'er, shakes off dew from his clothes, is chayav. Mishum melaben. Right? Right? You get that? If a person has like some drops of water or dew on his clothes and he shakes it off, this is chayav. Right? So, and this, but the Gemara says there are three conditions. One, chadash, shachor, makpid. What does that mean? First of all, chadash means that it's new. It doesn't have to be brand new. It could be that you could tell this is a new article of clothing. According to Sefer Menuchat Hava, if he did laundry on it one time, it's not chadash anymore. It's not new anymore. Number two condition is that it has to be black, right? And by black means only black. Although some of the poskim say black means any dark color, but most poskim Sephardim, they said no, only black. Condition number three is makpid, that a person minds he wouldn't wear it if it has these droplets of dew on it or these droplets of water, unless he shakes it. If he doesn't mind, and now he just wants to wear it, but he wants to shake it, normally he wouldn't mind, it would be fine, right? So far so good, because this is like kibbutz, this is like laundry, and it's asur. If one of these conditions is not met, then it is mutar. Why? Because these conditions show that he wants to beautify his clothes. Like, it's new and it's black. Like, other colors he wouldn't mind if there is water usually. But if it's black, then there's these droplets he would really mind, and he has to mind. Then it shows that he wants to beautify his clothes, because that person wants to make sure that it's nice and good. That's why he's shaking it off, and that would be considered laundering, because laundering is to beautify and to cleanse the clothing, and then it would be asur. Otherwise, if one of these conditions is missing, then it wouldn't be a problem. A person could shake that water droplets off of his clothing. What about a person is walking, and this doesn't happen in Los Angeles, but he's got snow on his clothing, and the snow hasn't melted yet. He's walking, and the snow is accumulating on his clothing. Is a person allowed to shake the snow off? Yes, a person is allowed to do it, but not vigorously, in a very mild manner, just shake it off. If the snow has melted on his jacket or coat, his or her jacket or coat, then the three conditions, if they're not met, one is allowed to shake off that liquid. If the three conditions are not met, what did I say? If these three conditions are there, then he can't shake. But if these three conditions are not there, then a person could shake it. If it's a clothing, if a coat or something, whatever it is, that's been used a couple of times, and rain came down on it, and it's wet. He wants to shake it off. Can he do it on Shabbat? This was a test. We said it's a used raincoat. He's been using it. Because he doesn't care anymore, then he is allowed to do it, right? Also, if this coat or raincoat is made out of polyester, nylon, or plastic, or rubber, they have all these sort of things, it's not a problem at all. You could even shake it vigorously, because there is no sechita. The reason why we say you can't shake it vigorously, because you might squeeze it, right? Or it might be like the way of doing laundry. But these sort of things, because they don't absorb the water into them, a person could shake them, and it's not a problem. Okay. Now, there's another halakha also. The Gemara says that the person has, let's say, a pot or a container that has water in it, should not put, let's say, a towel or like a piece of cloth over it. Why? Because it might fall in there, and he's gonna say, "Oh no!" and they're gonna take it out and squeeze it on Shabbat. That's why a person shouldn't do that. A lot of people, they have a pot of soup, and they don't want to put the lid on it, because they don't want it to. They want it to cool off, so they put usually a cloth on it, so it'll slowly cool off. Is that allowed or not? It's allowed. It's not water. It's soup. It's only water that we're afraid that he's gonna squeeze off. Once it's soup, once it's got anything that has color in it, then he's not gonna squeeze it, and that's not a problem. Also, if this cloth is a kitchen thing, that it's a part of the things, and the person always uses it to put it over the pot or the container or whatever it is, then he's not. He knows it's a norm. It might fall in the pot. A person is not going to run and squeeze it. In that case, it's not a problem. It's not an issue. A person could go ahead and use that cloth. Now, a branch off of that halacha that we mentioned is there is a machloket in the Gemara, in the commentaries on the Gemara. Rashi says what we said about the dew or the droplets of water that are on a person's clothing, that when he shakes it off, it's like laundering. Rashi says, Rashi, Rabbi Hananel, and Rabbi Eliezer Mimitz, and other Rishonim, they say this is the same halacha applies to dust. If there is dust on his jacket, one is not allowed to shake it off the jacket, right? However, many achronim, Tosafot, Ritva, Rashba, Ran, and a lot of other achronim, they all say that no, what the Gemara says is only about dew and water, droplets, that's it. But as far as dust, it's not a problem. A person could go ahead and shake it and get it off. And that's, and Mara in the Shulchan Aruch doesn't even bring it. He only brings the dew and the water, and that's it. The Ramah, however, says that if there is dust, there are those who say that a person is not allowed to shake it off. Now, if a person doesn't shake it off, he just does it by hand, then according to everyone, that's fine. The whole issue would be to shake off the jacket, like, if there is a thing, if there is the dust or dirt on it. But if he wants to, just brush it off like this, or use a handkerchief, to clean it up, it's according to everyone, it's not a problem. Let's say, sometimes you buy new clothing, there's a little feather or a little string still, it's not attached, it's just there. You could certainly remove that, it's not a problem. Rav Ovadia writes that a person could even use a clothing brush to brush off dirt from his clothing, and it's not a problem. Now, going back to what we said, let's say you have mud or dirt on the clothing, right? That happens sometimes. A person is not allowed to rub them, right? Take the two ends, for demonstration purposes. The dirt is here. Person takes this like this and rubs it like that to make it clean. That a person is not allowed to do, right? That is like laundry. You could do it b'shinui. That means from behind, right? You could stick your hand there and do it and rub it like this, or flick it off the dirt, from behind with a shinui. A person could go ahead and do that, or with the nail or a knife, go ahead and rub it off like this. Again, you can't rub